All right, it's great to be here. I'm excited to spend the next 20 minutes with you. You can't talk, in today's day and age, you can't talk about comprehensive support and customer service without integrating technology into that discussion. So we are super honored today to have the panelists that we have, where we're going to talk very quickly about things like cybersecurity, technology, and even AI for those. So our goal is that you'll leave with some questions answered, maybe some new questions to talk about, but something that you can integrate into your business. So I'm going to let each of our panelists very quickly in 30 seconds introduce themselves. I always like the panelists to tell you what they want you to know about them as opposed to spending our 20 minutes reading their bios.
Me first. Okay, hey guys, my name is Shadi Awad. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Technagy IT. We're an MSP, so that's an abbreviation, the tech term, right? It's a managed service provider. Companies will outsource their IT to us, top to bottom. And we're located in Arlington, Texas, in Tarrant County. So good to be with you guys. Jeff, thank you so much for having us.
Hi, everybody. I'm John Woods. We are FalconOps. We're an offensive security company, so that means we break into people's businesses for money when they allow us to. We're based in Fort Worth, and we have a team of former NSA operators, so they are really good at what we do.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Greg Buell, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer for D&M Leasing, which is headquartered here in Fort Worth. We're a vertically integrated consumer and commercial leasing company which specializes in white glove concierge automobile delivery services. We integrate people, process, and technology because we don't have a traditional brick and mortar footprint, and so technology is very central to delivering our value proposition to our customers.
Wonderful. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. John, I'm going to start with you. With your work at FalconOps, how do you leverage emerging security technologies like AI-driven threat detection to proactively respond to the concerns that your clients have while also maintaining and building trust along the way?
That's a great question. Right now, there's a conference going on in San Francisco called RSA, and AI is the most expensive 2 letters you can pay for there. We use AI just like the bad guys do. So the bad guys have been using AI for quite a while to write malware to try to get into your environments, to write better emails to get you to click a link, and we do that. So we leverage it within our offensive operations. We also leverage it for creating our reports that we hand out. It really is getting very deeply integrated into all of security right now. So beyond just what we do, there's technologies out there that are next gen technologies that are leveraging AI to help you in your environments, to protect the assets that you have, the data that you have through advanced machine learning and just better overall protection and use of the data that they have about your environment to make sure it's safer.
Wonderful, thanks. Greg, with the work you're doing at D&M Leasing, what technologies are you utilizing to allow you to further customize the customer service process while also creating efficiencies when you're trying to scale?
Yeah, thanks, Trey. Core to our model it's really focused around, direct to consumer, and we provide expertise and consultation really to our customers. And so our technology has really been focusing around putting the information at the fingertips of our consultants as opposed to directly between us and our customers. That way they can kind of provide their best-in-class service and provide those services and provide value and promote our value proposition. The core to it all is around our CRM, which is we developed ourselves years ago, and the API integrations and bringing all of the different information from various other vendors, our other businesses, our franchise dealerships, our banks, the credit unions, our finance company, bringing it all into one place and putting all of that information at our fingertips to create efficiency, because we basically take and do in 20 minutes what a normal car purchase experience would take 4 hours at a dealership to do. And so that's kind of the first gen. And then as we evolve, we're now exploring AI technologies to how to enhance and support our sales force kind of behind the scenes Once again, not to get into the way of interacting with the customer, but actually to provide them the tools to add more value and be more consultative in their support.
So that's super encouraging, because I know with AI, oftentimes we think, oh my gosh, what jobs are still going to exist? What jobs are going to be taken away? But to hear you guys are using it to equip your sales staff and to make them more efficient and effective in the way they work is really encouraging, I think, for all of us.
Yes, and you know, as you grow and as you scale, that becomes more and more important, getting people up the learning curve. We have a sales force of 250 people. You know, when we started, obviously, you know, it was a dozen, and over time, right, being able to get them up that learning curve, you know, the tools and technologies kind of help you cover that ground.
Wonderful, thank you. Finally, for you, in the work you do with small and mid-sized businesses, what's one way that you have seen tech transform the way that companies are working with their employees and their customers?
Yeah, great question. I was just with a client in Atlanta, sat down with them, and they were telling us how right now they're using AI to sit in their peer review meetings with their employees, right? So it's, selective listening, right? We have that sometimes, or remembering what your employee tells you are their dreams and aspirations, but how do you really bring that to life, right? So the AI is taking all these notes, gathering the goals of the employee. I was so impressed with these guys because really they were documenting this stuff with intention to leverage it in the future. And if you think of Gen Z particularly, they bring their values to work. We learn a lot from them, right? We typically are like, oh, your values at home, and then you got your values at work, but they bring their values at work. So like hearing them is really important, and engaging them to their career goals are super important. So they believe that in the next 4 or 5 years, when they have enough data on their performance reviews of their employees, they're going to be able to really talk to the AI and ask, hey, is there a better fit for this person within the organization? Or is there somebody that we're missing within our organizational structure? And should we move this person somewhere else? It's really fascinating, right? And so they're leveraging it for that, and they're creating a database of information for them to be able to ask questions to improve the organizational structure. So
That's great. Again, AI, not all bad.
yeah.
People are using it to help make them more efficient, to better serve their employees and their customers eventually. So, John, for you, with so many businesses accelerating their digital adoption, what are some ways that you would advise clients to do so safely, creating an environment that's going to be productive for them, but also not compromising in the long run?
That's a great question. So the first thing that I would say is look at security for those products as a risk question, very much like what you do from a financial basis, probably daily, maybe by the hour. It's not a no, you can't use it, because if you do that, you're not going to be able to do some of the really cool things that we've talked about and you've probably experienced that you can accomplish with AI. AI is a game changer for work. One of the things that our operators do is they don't have to do the menial tasks, kind of like you were saying with where's this person fit in a penetration test, because AI takes care of that. They can do the fun work, which leads to greater satisfaction with the employees. The big thing that I would ask all of you to do is just make sure that when you're working with AI, your data stays your data, because almost all of the large learning models that are out there, large language models that are out there, they learn from what you're giving it. And a lot of them, when it learns, that becomes public domain. It's out on the internet. So make sure that it's yours. And check, because you can ask it to do things and it'll give you an answer, but that answer is not always right. Even with us, with some of the advanced security things that we do. So double check, make sure you check the answers, and if it's wrong, tell it, because it'll say, oh yeah, thank you for letting me know. I looked at that again and you're right, here's the right answer. I would give you one piece of parting advice on it is be nice and say, please reconsider that, because who knows, in 20 years it may come back and kill a younger version of you so that it doesn't have to deal with you.
That's not scary. So, Greg, I'm glad that we have a CFO here. I know your role, in addition to managing the financial operations of the business, is also strategic initiatives. And so, as we all listen to these really cool ideas and functional elements and ways to integrate technology and AI into our businesses, we immediately come to the idea of cost. And so, for you as CFO, how do you balance the complexity of implementing these, very important but difficult technology solutions into also figuring out how you can create a customer, high-touch customer interaction piece as well?
No, that's an excellent question, and it goes beyond just cost. Obviously, there are ROI hurdles with any technology that we examine, and it is still kind of the wild, wild west. It's hard to put your finger really on what that return will be, because as you start looking at some, the AI is in its infancy in many respects, and the results are unproven, and so sometimes you have to make assumptions. But really, it's beyond just the cost and the complexity. I want to kind of tie back to something that John was just talking about and elaborate on it, because I think what we've found in our organization, there's so many different things that are out there and so many things that we could examine, and there's a lot of shiny new technologies that are emerging. Obviously, protecting your data is key, and I think the way that you do that is really by establishing a framework and a policy around how these technologies will be evaluated. And we've been good in our organization as far as setting that foundation, kind of bringing some of the ideas to light, really, having a steering committee as far as these technologies are concerned, examining potential pilots, right, having upfront stated objectives as far as what you want those pilots to accomplish, and then measure against that so that you don't get into scope creep, so that you don't wind up going down rabbit holes. That's really the best advice that I can give really to any company that's trying to figure out how to make it all fit in and work. We've had many spirited discussions within the four walls of our organization, just trying to kind of contain our exuberance with really some of the emerging technology that's out there. One thing that we've had proven success with is really, on the model, from a learning model standpoint, is really developing a scorecard that really sits behind our sales force. And what used to take a manager hours to go through and to listen to phone calls and to really coach and counsel, now that can be done within seconds, and you can query and use AI integrated into our telephony system to be able to, were all the key points covered? Did we deliver the maximum value, and experience to our client? Did we cover all of the compliance and regulatory components? It's an incredible tool, but making sure that you do it safely, soundly, and in the open, and that you have all of your compliance and regulatory bases covered is an important part of that evaluation, as much it is as doing a cost-benefit analysis.
And how's the staff respond to that level of support?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. I mean, what we're finding is that with the younger generation, they're far more embracing with that. Older, it still feels kind of big brotherish to them. We have a very seasoned sales force. Our average tenure is 10 years with the organization. And so really, it's about trust and showing the value, explaining the why, taking the time to show that the tools work, and showing how they, can help them, help their customers, and in the end, all boats rise.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to ask you a similar question, but you're working as a consultant with a lot of businesses. They're looking to you as they see this acceleration of and infiltration of automation tools and AI tools and different technology solutions. How are you advising your customers and helping them make the right decisions for their business about how to integrate some of these technologies that are coming down the line?
Yeah, so we do think of it as the Wild West. There's very little regulation on AI right now. And so if you're stepping into it, just know that there's probably a lot of privacy concerns, right? And so we tell our clients to slow down a little bit and to really consider the privacy ramifications. If you have a company here and you don't have cyber insurance, you got to get it, because as IT companies, we oftentimes get third-party waivers in our contracts, where if a third party like CrowdStrike, drops, a massive, hack on the U.S. infrastructure, oftentimes IT companies are covered, right, by third-party waiver liabilities, right? So there is a true responsibility to slow down a little bit and just say, okay, where am I putting my data? So we, like internally, are looking at products. Like I'll give you guys an example of one that we're about to start testing. It's a local LLM. So I encourage anybody to get a local LLM, which it's your own data. It's enclosed. It's off. It's like a local server, but it's a file share NAS, network area storage device, that allows us to take client data if they want to put it in their environment, have the client data stored in there, but the AI will start, researching the documents and making sure that you're compliant with your core values. But for example, I'll take the approach of if you're a 1 or 2 employee company, your data is stored on each other's computers, right? But you get to 10 employees, 100 employees, 1,000 employees, then you begin to form silos of data, right? And then if anybody does this, I mean, I've done it where I've created multiple of the same document. You guys know about revisions and all this different stuff. Imagine across a 100-employee organization how much waste there is in productivity if you're not, working together to know where the data is. So AI with a file server, all right, will allow us to query the database and just say, hey, who's created a document that's done this, right? And in probably 2 minutes, you give it its parameters and it'll create something for you, right? So when we think about cloud storage or we think about local storage, we're thinking about ways how to make productivity more efficient, right? How to drive more efficiency, how to engage the documents and the files that we've created over 10 years, right? So there's a lot of waste there, but I think an AI local LLM file server will actually help with that, which I think is great. And I know that the push is to move to the cloud, but I think that there's still a lot of privacy concerns around that as a company. We think about that a lot.
And it sounds like, regardless of where you are in this process with your business, you should be thinking about ways to explore opportunities to connect with people that understand this and really figure out how to integrate it proactively into your business, as opposed to maybe letting some of your younger employees go crazy on ChatGPT. But I also think it's interesting as we've seen employees come up with interesting and creative ways to think about how to use AI and automation tools. So definitely be thinking about that as you're moving forward. I have one more question for you guys. It's really a little bit of transparency around where have you messed up in this space in your business so far? Where have you learned something? And do you think trying things is a good way to start, right? Not everything's going to work. And in this new world, when we're trying to figure out what do we do, where have you tried something and you said, that didn't work, we're not going to do that again, or we've learned something from that and gone a different avenue or route?
I'll start. Initially, there's a lot of chat functionality that's out there that will allow your customers directly to interface, and if somebody's not available, on an online chat, you can have AI basically do the talking. And what we found is that for our core business, and we contemplated piloting it. Fortunately, we stopped before we implemented it. It does have relevancy in some parts of our business, but that just gets back to the have a policy, have a framework, right, that serves as kind of the North Star for what you're doing, because what we realized was we were starting to head down a path that was maybe going to take us away from our core value as far as what we provide from a service standpoint, and maybe degrade that experience. And so I think that was a good wake-up call for us and a call to arms for us to take more control and be more proactive about developing policies and controls and a steering committee to vet things before you start experimenting.
Ours was very similar. We went too far with it. There are parts of penetration testing that are just best done by humans because maybe we're more sneaky, I don't know. But we tried to automate too many things. And so we took the human element out of some of the decisions, and that did not produce it didn't go bad. So let me preface that before any of our customers get upset. But it didn't go the way we wanted it to. It didn't go as well as we would like it, and we ended up doing more work to resolve that, so it actually cost us more than we thought. So it was just an overzealous implementation of the technology for automation that went bad. Yeah.
So I got two things to that vein too. I mean, when we deploy some AI products for security, sometimes there's a lot of false positives that come up, and you're like, oh man, the customer experience is getting affected a little bit. Maybe something saying, hey, you're locked out of your computer, but it wasn't really necessarily a threat. So it's to remember that AI is still like a kid, right? It's not like you're going to turn it on and it's going to solve all of our problems. That's that's a higher power, right? So in that sense, just be mindful that you're going to have to work it, right, and do that. So we've experienced that. The other thing too is if you take your ChatGPT, who's got ChatGPT here? Anybody on their phones? Just Google. I say Google ChatGPT yourself. And that's one of the mistakes I didn't realize is like, hey, your information, whatever you put out there, whether it's your bios, oh, it knows about you already. So you should, it's actually terrifying. If you put your name in there and the city you're in, it tells you everything. It brought up my kids' names. It brought up everything. And so I took I told the AI to delete this information, and it said it deleted it. But do we really know if it's deleted on ChatGPT? So be mindful of your data footprint. Don't be so trusting. I know I sound like, a Debbie Downer, man.
You
but,
sound like me.
Yeah, but don't be so trusting. But, be conscious about the data and the footprint you're leaving digitally because other people can Google it or ChatGPT it, and they can find out a whole bunch of information, especially competitive information as well. So be mindful of that.
Thank you. That personal application is really valuable. As we all leave, that's something that we can take with us. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate your support and involvement, and hopefully you are able to walk away today with a little bit something new as you think about technology being a positive, empowering, and equipping piece of customer service, as opposed to something that's totally not integrated and not connected at all. And so, thank you all for sharing that. Can we hear it for our
Thank you, guys.
panelists
Thank you,
today?
Trey.
Thank you.